episode 34 of Mount Hope Sports Complex. Talk sports to me. I'm your host, the Sports Guru. This week we have another incredible series titled The Coach's Corner. In this week's series, we will hear from many ups and downs, up-and-coming coaches throughout the week, even a couple of legendary coaches. Tonight we will be joined by newly acquired Withrow High School head coach, Coach Berto Allen, which is a huge privilege for us to have Coach Allen with us tonight as well. Last week, our series was titled She Got Game, Divas of the Hardwood. It was a very exceptional series. We had a great list of young ladies and former athletes that were with us. And I thought all in all, it was a great opportunity for the women's sport of basketball and women's athletics to really take a step in the right direction in terms of equality in sports. That's something that we talked about. We also talked about gender equality, and we talked about the rise of women's athletics, where it started, and how it's evolved to where it is today. Please follow us on Twitter at Talk Sports to Me, Instagram at Talk Sports TM, and Facebook at Talk Sports to Me. Twitter is Talk Sports to Me 1. This is Teachers Week, and all great coaches are teachers. And even if they don't teach in the classroom, the life lessons that coaches teach on the court, in my opinion, are oftentimes more valuable than what can be learned in a classroom. What you can learn in a classroom, it only goes so far, and it will only help you in so many different areas of life. That equation or that problem that you answer in a classroom, it only lasts for that classroom. But when you get outside that classroom, the teachers and the lessons that those teachers have taught you through the duration of your time in that course are what ultimately sticks with you and helps you become a better person. Life values are things in which it doesn't matter the color of a person's skin or where the person comes from. In life lessons, they are acquired, and they will ultimately put you in an opportunity for success if you listen to what your teacher or your coach is saying and not how they're saying it. A coach is defined as someone whose job is to train, organize a sports team, and in my opinion, a coach should also be considered a leader of men. When I look at coaches and I evaluate coaches, I evaluate that contingent based on, are they leaders of men? Are they able to lead groups? And we'll get into that as the week goes on. Coaching takes so many personal qualities. And just to list some of the qualities that a coach must inherit to be successful in the field of coaching, you have to have leadership. You have to have patience. You have to have hard work. You have to have dedication. You have to be committed. You have to be resilient. You have to be focused. You have to be firm. And last but not least, you have to be loving. In order to achieve any type of success in coaching, all these qualities must be executed within the process of obtaining that success. When you think of great coaches that you've seen down the line and through the years, you think of John Thompson, you think of Bob Huggins, you think of Bill Belichick, you may think of Phil Jackson, you may think of Mike Krzyzewski. And something that we're going to talk about later in the week is the ever-evolving number of African-American male coaches that are getting head coaching opportunities. There was a time when the NFL wouldn't let a black man play quarterback because they felt as if he wasn't intelligent enough. It's utter bullcrap. We know that. We've moved past that now. But do black quarterbacks get a fair shake, or is their leash for failure as long as some of the other quarterbacks of other ethnicities? Absolutely not. We know that to be true. We see it with what's happened with Jameson Winston. We see it with what's happened in Carolina with Cam Newton. These are all high-quality level coaches that we talked about. But the one common denominator that all these coaches share is tough love. And we will dig deep into that and how important tough love is when establishing a championship culture within a program. Tonight we will be joined by a man who has been a mainstay in the world of Cincinnati high school hoops since the mid to late 1990s. A man who left the city and further pursued his playing career collegiately at Ohio Dominican University in Columbus, Ohio. A man who accepted his first head coaching job at a school that nobody else in the city wanted at the time he took the job. He took the job humbly, he took the job gracefully, and he took the job with a purpose in mind, and that was to build a program. He built a program there while not only playing one of the best schedules in the city for small schools, he played one of the best schedules in the country for schools the size of James Gamble Montessori. He has built character within the program with the young men that he has touched. He has brought the program to respectability. He has competed for postseason championships the last few years. And most importantly, in terms of James Gamble Montessori, he has left a legacy behind to be remembered. He is a husband, a father. He now has a son currently playing college basketball, and he has daughters that excel in the classroom and are also looking at very bright futures. A man with plenty of swagger, a lot of toughness, a lot of grit, a lot of determination, and a pride and project of Cincinnati Public Schools. And he has Cincinnati Public Schools pride all inside. The newly appointed head men's basketball coach at Withrow University in Cincinnati, Ohio, my guy, Berto Allen. Coach, what's up?
You talking about me? Who is that guy you talking about, man?
You know who I'm talking about, man. How's your quarantine life treating you?
Hey, man, it is treating me okay. It's preventing me from doing what I got to do and what I love to do, and that's be around our youth and be in the gym. Otherwise, I'm doing fine, man. My body's finally getting some rest, and I'm just maintaining.
That's good, man. Tell us about your high school playing days at Taft, class of 1996. The Aviators, Senators. One of the best programs in the city perennially, was then, is now. Tell us about that experience playing for Taft.
I actually want to say that I started off playing my high school basketball at Cape High School. You know, as a freshman and sophomore, I played at Cape, and once they closed Cape down, I went to Taft. Having that opportunity to play at Taft High School was second to none, man. You had to be tough. It was family-oriented. We challenged each other, and there was no room for any excuse. Practices were like war. Guys that you call brother, you almost came to blows with because we competed so hard. And we pushed each other day in, day out, and consequently, we won a lot of our basketball games.
Mm-hmm. I've always heard that about Taft. I always heard that if you walk in the gym for a Taft practice, be prepared for just about anything because the level of competition is second to none. Something that I know is very personal to you and very intimate to you and means everything to you is, and I got a chance to be a part of it for a year, and it was an experience second to none, and I was, regretfully had to leave that opportunity. But what does CPS schools mean to you?
CPS schools mean everything to me, and again, I am CPS. You're able to meet so many youth and good people and great teachers that genuinely care about you. I think one great advantage that CPS schools have is that the classes are pretty intimate, right? Whether you know your teacher pretty much on a first-name basis, you can go to them after school, during school to get some counseling, to get some advice, to share your ideas, to get extra help with your homework. It's just more of a family feel in the CPS environment.
What I noticed when I was at CPS was if you're a product of CPS, you get it and you understand the culture and the way that you need to move within the building. If you are not a product of CPS, you better get on the train because it's moving, and if you don't, get off the tracks. If that makes any sense. Because what I picked up on very early is it's some days at CPS where it's not about 2 + 2 = 4. It's about what we need to do for this young man or this young woman today. Skipping 2 + there tomorrow, they understand that 3 + 3 is 6, because are unfavorable to the point to where some days kids just need to come to school and get some rest because they didn't get rest last night. But tomorrow we're going to pick it up and we're going to go overtime, double hard, and we're not going to press the issue today. And so I learned a different way to educate at Cincinnati Public, and that's the one thing that I learned about being there.
Man, absolutely. And I was one of those kids, man. And I don't mind sharing that. You know, I grew up in Over the Rhine on Ray Street when it was pretty tough, and I came up in a pretty dysfunctional family where I never met my dad, and my mother had some addiction issues, so I had to grow up pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. You know, by 5 years old, I was running the streets. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. However, even though I was out in the streets at such a very, very young age, you know, I didn't do the things that a lot of my friends and those individuals did, man. You know, but that was just a way of life. That was normal to me, right? And I didn't learn that it was so-called wrong until I got a little bit older. So I can really identify with youth that have challenging times at home, and that's one of my biggest strengths as a role model, as a black man working for CPS and being there. And I can allow these kids to understand long. Born with a silver spoon in his mouth. You know, I'm able to for their language. I'm able to give them respect and give it back. I'm in respect for how I carry myself and with my background, and they respect it. Mm-hmm. So, as you alluded to previously, if you're not from that environment or understand it, you better get on the bus or get off, because it's not for everybody. These kids know what's authentic and real. They know what's fake. Mm-hmm. And if you come in there faking the funk, they're gonna smell you and get rid of you real quick.
Yep. That's absolutely facts. Like, the biggest compliment to me when I got another opportunity, you know, and it was a career move. It wasn't a move I wanted to make. You know, I live out in Mount Orb, where you play your sectional at. You know, that's a good hour from downtown. So it wasn't a move I wanted to make. It was a move that was best for my family and for myself. But the biggest compliment to me was that the people at Cincinnati Public didn't want me to leave. You know, Miss Belinda Wallace didn't want me to leave. You know, Miss Lania Lau didn't want me to leave. You know, Mr. Ed, the custodian, you know, he was the custodian, but he was one of the disciplinarians in the building. You know, he didn't want. So when those people were like, man, just what do we got to do to get you to stay? I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand it. You know, and something that a lot of people don't understand about, like, inner city culture, is that people always have this misconception or judgment of the dope dealers that are in the streets or the jack boys that are in the streets, but if they see something in you that's different and they think they can get you out of that neighborhood, a lot of situations they won't persuade you to do what's wrong. They'll try to help you do what's right because they see potential in you to get out of there. And I think that that's something that people need to stop. Like, you know, a lot of people who think like downtown or think Over the Rhine, the first thing they think is all the negativity, but they don't understand how much positivity that the people who are forced to live the negative lifestyle put into the people that they see the future for. Now, the knuckleheads, they might bring them in, you know, but the kids that they see want a different life, I've seen it happen time and time again. They will do anything in their power to help kids get out of there, you know? And so that's one thing that I think needs to be spoke about for inner cities. How much of an impact did those CPS days as a student have on your future?
They had a huge impact on my future, because had they not, I wouldn't be talking to you now. I had an English teacher, science teacher, Mr. Engel, Miss House, Ed Martin, my basketball coaches, Eric Thomas, Mark Mitchell. You know, those guys, those individuals really poured into me. You know, they really gave me a belief in myself. Now, I was always a confident person, and wanted to do great things, but it's something different when you have adults believing in you and supporting. The biggest thing that I got out of high school, you know, really came from my coaches, man. They gave me tough love. Eric Thomas was a mastermind at challenging you mentally and breaking you down physically. So, and you know, in my opinion, sports is life. He taught not only myself but our team to be disciplined, to be hardworking, to be organized, to push yourself to the next level. And those values I currently live by today, and I also instill them in my own children as well as the young people that I have come in contact with. Life is tough. I received tough love. I received the love that I needed. I received the guidance that I needed. And I will always be grateful and indebted because of those individuals.
Yes, sir. Let's talk about those old CPS rivalries, Taft, Withrow, Woodward, Hughes. Let's talk about that Cincinnati Public Schools League a little bit, and we'll get more into it, more in depth. As from a coaching standpoint, I want to talk about it from a playing standpoint. Back in the early 90s when Damon Flint was around and Eric Johnson, and let's talk about that for a minute.
So you know, I fought with that, right, with Eric Johnson, Damon Flint. Well, those guys are a little bit older than me. But Eric Johnson and I have a relationship that goes way back to Boys and Girls Clubs. Eric was from Avondale. I'm from downtown. So I respect the clubs always will play against each other. And even though I was a young guy, I caught Eric Johnson's eye by the way I played. And his respect for me grew when he saw me at a Xavier basketball camp. Now, back in those days, man, the City League was something else. You know, you had the Withrow and Woodward rivalry. You had the Taft and Woodward rivalry. You know, what was our rival? I absolutely have a very, very strong dislike for Woodward competitively. You know, when it was the dog pound against the Senators, man, it was lock the doors, guard the children. It's about to be war in here. To this day, some of my good friends played at Woodward, and they joke with me. But you know, part of me still don't like them. I don't like that. I don't like that blue and white, man. But it was some really, really good basketball games, man. It was some good coaching, man. You know, that was my first time meeting Coach Mick Cronin. You know, he was a JV coach at Woodward, but you had so much talent, man. You had the West Highs, you had the Aikens, you know, with the Lamarcus Wards, the Janario Spurlocks, you know, the Lonnie Dirty, guys of that nature. You know, Coach P can go to work too, man. So back then it was some good live ball, man. But our rivalry at Taft was Woodward. I never got a chance.
There's two things that you brought up in your answer. The first thing, I went to them Pete Gillen basketball camps at Xavier from 1990 to 1994. So you was probably the one taking the awards, because only the last year did I get a couple awards, and like I couldn't understand, like, I'm one of the better kids here, but I figured out like the second and third year, like they was looking for the kids that was going to dive on the loose balls on the concrete on the outdoor games. And you know what I mean? And so that's when, from being out here, you know, playing at Ripley, that's when my game kind of evolved, is when I went to Cincinnati to get to play, you know. And so that's where in Maysville, Kentucky, those are the two places that I really got tougher. The second thing was, you mentioned Janario Spurlock. I played against him in the East-West All-Star game at Winton Woods High School. And so him and no, I take that back. Brandon McIntosh and Eugene Land and Janario Spurlock were all on the same team. And that team was really, really good. I mean, that was the first time that I really like got to see it for real, like a bunch of D1 caliber dudes on the court at the same time, you know.
So much size and athleticism right there.
And they could shoot, you know, like Brandon and Janario could shoot the ball, you know. And then, you know, one of my years in college, I played with Angelo Carr, who was also a good point guard in the city around that time as well. Coming out of high school, naturally wanted to pursue basketball. How did that come about, and why Ohio Dominican final choice?
All right, well, I'll give you a little story. So during my high school years, I was a really good freshman. Played varsity as a sophomore, really didn't get too much better in leaving Cape. Had a roller coaster ride as a junior and had a phenomenal senior year, right, at TAB. So I wasn't recruited to my standards and what I wanted. So therefore, I attended Cincinnati State under Coach John Hurley, and I had a really good freshman year, so much so that I was being recruited by Division I schools. The highest at that particular time was Dayton University. So I had a fond place for Dayton in my heart. I thought I was going to be a Dayton Flyer. So heading into my sophomore year, I was gung-ho. I'm going to UD. And, you know, that was going to be it. I'm going to graduate, handle my business, and go to UD. So going for my sophomore year, we got some new players, and I got injured. I hurt my back pretty badly. So when that happened, my game changed. I went from being the guy that, you know, create his own, hit open shots really, really quick, to being the guy for this new team where I had pretty much just run the show and be more of a Jock Bond type of a guy, where I defended and set guys up. Still getting recruited, man, but UD kind of faded. They had a new regime come in, and the other Division I schools kind of faded back. So at this time, you know, I met Elijah's mother, my oldest child's mother, and, you know, we got pregnant with Elijah my sophomore year, and I was being recruited by schools all over the country, and D2s, you know, in Florida, the West Coast, the East Coast, and I made up my mind that I wouldn't go too far from my son. So Ohio Dominican new head coach called me. He called our coach, and he spoke with me, and it was up in Columbus. But what really made me select Ohio Dominican was the fact that Coach Priest, our head coach at Ohio Dominican, was a man of his word. And it didn't hurt that it was up the street from Cincinnati. So me wanting to be a father for my son and provide him with something I never had in the mail was very, really important to me. You know, playing at Ohio Dominican allowed me to come home on the weekends when I could to see my son. It allowed the mother of my son to come up and visit me. So that was very important to me. So Ohio Dominican was really good up the street. Campus, where there was blacks, whites, Russians, Hispanics, Africans, and things of that nature, and coming from a high school predominantly black, and at Cincinnati State was predominantly black.
You needed
that diversity.
Yeah.
I needed it, and it helped me down the line.
Wow.
So that's why I chose Ohio Dominican.
Wow. That's a really great story in terms of, you know, being able to want to provide for your son what you didn't have, but still knowing that you had business to take care of. And what happens a lot of times in situations like that is the young man puts basketball before he puts education, and then it doesn't work out. Because if you put, I tell kids all the time, if you put basketball before education, it'll never work out for you. You know, you have to put education first. So you get done at ODU, graduate, earning a degree. Now it's time for your first super big boy move. What came next for you?
Well, ironically, I got my first, big job at Boys and Girls Club in Cincinnati as a blonde Boys and Girls Club. As the program at that time was the number 2 person in the building. I grew up in that environment. It really saved my life. I met wonderful people there, and they promised me a job after I graduated, and they held true to their word. So here I am, 22 years old, 23 years old, with a job where I'm now managing people older than me, and I'm personally responsible for 5 departments. So that was phenomenal. So I held that title as a program director for 6 years before I was named the director of the building, of the LeBlanc building for 2 years. So that was a great experience for me. It taught me how to work with others. It taught me how to budget and manage money. It taught me how to market and give back to our youth, market our programs, raise money, be creative, coach young people, coach your staff. So it gave me a lot of responsibility, man, that really helped me out up until this point.
That's that 501c3 money. So it's a lot of grant money and stuff that comes through those places. So you have to be cautious with spending, in those types of situations. Let's fast forward. You get your first head coaching job. Your ultimate goal was to be a head coach. Tell us about that experience at Gamble and how tough it was to build that.
I got to correct that, Coach. I didn't want to be a head coach in high school basketball.
Wow.
That honestly wasn't my goal. So I got another story for you. When I began coaching, when my son was about in the 3rd grade, which was about 13, 14 years ago or more, and I was coaching AAU basketball, and I worked my way up. And people told me I would be a high school head coach, and I said, no, I won't. I don't want to do that. So to be real quick, I got my start in high school basketball at Hughes High School because of my son, and I'll explain. I was the junior high head coach at Rokenberg Elementary. And at that time, my son was in the 6th grade. And I got him on the 7th and 8th grade team, and he was our best player. Well, one of Hughes' coaches came to watch us play, and after the game, he asked who this particular kid, who my son was. He didn't know he was my son. And once I told him who I was and what grade my son was, he said, wow. Fast forward, I was coaching the 6th grade AAU team, and Coach Ryan, the former head coach he was calling me up, and he came to see us play. And what attracted me to Hughes was, you're going to see a pattern here, he was a man of his word. He came to see us play. He did what he said he was going to do, and that attracted me to him. So now at that time, Hughes wasn't that good. Everybody sees the success that Hughes is having now, but that foundation was laid back in 2011, in my opinion, when he and I got together. He hired me on as the head junior high basketball coach and varsity assistant. Still, being the head coach was not in my thoughts. I was an employee at Gamble Montessori. I was working there, and it never crossed my mind to coach here. So in 2015, I notified Coach Ryan that I was leaving the program. And about a week later, I was approached by my old AD at Gamble, David Miller, and our principal, old principal, Jack Jost, to be the head coach. And I was like, I think about it. But here I am coming from a big program to, I saw what was going on at Gamble athletically, and it was pretty much nothing. But after I thought about it and prayed about it, man, I took a leap on faith. And I accepted the job, and so I'm about 5'11", and, Gamble at that time was getting drugged. They were getting blown out. They didn't have a winning culture. They had a losing mentality. And many around the city said some things to me, said some things about me that got back to me that gave me even more motivation. And that was, my coaching career is over. This is professional assassination. But I tell you this, man, when you got faith, when you have an unbelievable work ethic, when you have vision and an ability to just compete You know, I never once second guessed my decision to take this job. Never.
Mm.
You know, one thing that individuals can never can ever estimate is how much heart you got, how much sacrifice that you're willing to put forth in order to reach a certain level. So yeah, I took the gamble job, man, and I worked 7 days a week, nonstop. I gave gamble my mind, body, and soul, and finances. You know what I mean? So I never complained about the size of our gym,
Right.
which
Yeah.
was was a little smaller than half the size of our weight room at that time, which was probably a little bit bigger than somebody's bedroom. You know, I just believed that this works. No excuses. I just worked. And my assistant coach.
That's one thing I remember. When Tom Jutzy and I were at Bethel, you guys came out there. I don't know if it was our first year or whatever it was, but you came to our place, and you just really didn't have. Your son might have been playing. Did he play for you at Gamble?
Yeah, my son played for me at Gamble. He left you was with me and came to Gamble.
Yeah, he was a really good player. I remember him, but I just remember you didn't have a lot of pieces around him, and it wasn't a lack of really athleticism. Those kids just didn't know how to play basketball, really. You know, they ran fast and they jumped high and they could rebound, they could defend, but they were in foul trouble a lot. You know, we shot a lot of free throws that night, but we also lost the battle on the boards. They couldn't make layups, but your son had 30, you know, and I was just looking at the situation and, you know, ultimately I'm like, man, if this dude can get some players to come to this school, he can coach because he's doing a lot with nothing, you know, like you were doing a lot with nothing. And that's not a knock against those kids because those kids didn't come up playing basketball necessarily. You know what I mean? They were,
that's real.
You were canvassing the halls because I remember you didn't have a JV team. We only played varsity only that first year. And I remember it was a boy-girl doubleheader. Girls played, boys played. And I remember asking you, I was like, I'm like, you don't have a JV team? You was like, man, I had to go through the halls to get some of these kids. You was like, nah.
Yeah.
You was like, I had to go ask some of these kids to play. So now you're playing, and that was our first real interaction. That was the first time that we had ever touched base, you know. And one thing that people know about you is you've always been known as a player's coach. You know, your guys love you. And you give them a first-class experience. You know, like you said, even at Gamble, you made those kids feel like it was a first-class experience. They didn't know if they were playing at James Gamble Montessori. They didn't know if they were playing at Duke. You were giving them the best that you had to give them. And with that,
thank you.
With that comes guys wanting to play for you. And so now you've done that, and guys want to come play for you. So now the talent starts to come in and elevate at Gamble. So now I see you a year or two later at the Ripley Christmas tournament. And Ripley's my hometown. You know, that's where I'm from. That's where I played in that nice gym. So your kids come in the gym, and I just specifically remember they were in awe, you know, like looking around the gym and the hanging scoreboard. Your kids were like, this is a high school gym? You was like, yeah, but I see that you got some more talent now. So now you tell me, you're like, yeah, my best 2 or 3 players aren't even playing yet. Sitting out transfer rules. We'll be better after Christmas break. So I'm like, okay, so let me check this out. So I watched that game. You're playing Bracken County. Bracken County was they were young, but pretty talented. Or maybe it was Augusta. Maybe it was Augusta you were playing. It was Augusta you were playing. And they had a 7th grader that was pretty good. And your kids gave him a hard time, giving him fits. Again, still getting after it defensively. And then here we are. You have a good season. You got the #1 player in the city in the small schools division in Caden Warner. And you've got some dogs around him. And now you're starting to win some games. You win 9 or 10 out of your last 11 in the regular season going into the tournament draw. How were you able to make such a quick turnaround at Gamble in that 4 or 5 years like that?
Well, this was my strategy, but it goes back to hard work, belief, vision, and faith. So my mentality was this, first of all, the relationship that I had with the kids was second to none, right? I gave them tough love. So, kids talk. I love my kids and they love me. Secondly, I showed our parents that I was serious about academics. Now, all parents want their kids to be in a safer environment where their kids can learn. And word of mouth spread how much I love the kids, how seriously we took academics. And then I wanted to play anybody, anywhere, anytime, right? and I learned that from Bobby Bowden and how he built up Florida State. Before Florida State was a powerhouse in the 90s, Bobby Bowden, was quoted as saying he'll play anybody, anywhere. So I kind of took that belief, and we did that. Next, I believed in our parents. So every year I was at Gamble, we got new uniforms, right? So we're gonna look good. So we're gonna put on the floor a team that plays hard, plays together, plays mentally tough, with grit. Might not be the most talented, but we're gonna play damn hard, and we're gonna look good. Mm-hmm. Young people like to look good, so now you got a coach that cares about the kids. You have a coach that's serious about academics. The teams will play anybody, anywhere. They play hard and they look good. So, word of mouth spread. I don't recruit, coach, and prior to having a name before coming to Gamble and people seeing how we competed, he just wanted to be a part of that. Parents wanted to be a part of that. But we were able to turn it around to where our talent began to look like everybody else's because, like you said, the first 2 years, all I had was my son and some football players. Mm-hmm. And we never had a bench. We'd be beating some of the bigger schools, but due to them having more depth than us, they would get our guys to be tired. And I'll tell you this little story, man. My second year at Gamble, 4 out of my 5 starters were football players. I couldn't touch those football players from June to the first practice because the head men's basketball coach asked me not to. So think about that for a second. 4 out of my 5 starters were football players, and I couldn't even get them in the gym to dribble the ball or shoot the ball for 15 minutes. Our third year, things changed, man. We got some young players who were really young my third year. Had a freshman point guard, had sophomores, and then Caden came along with some other guys my fourth year. And last year, we were in some prime time events. We played against St. X. We played against in the Flying to the Hoop. Yeah. We played in MLK. We played in the Play-by-Play Classic. So this small, unknown school 5 years ago was playing the big-time schedule. Now, I could have easily played smaller schools and just dominated. Mm-hmm. But, I wanted to really uplift our program and make it a big-time program. Because in my mind, the size of the school doesn't determine if you're a big-time program or not. It's how you run and implement your organization.
Absolutely.
And even though we were a small school, as you said earlier, I never treated Gamble like it was a small school. Everything that we did was big. I like to do it big. Every year we got new practice uniforms. Every year we got new uniforms. Every year we got new team shoes, new coaching shoes, new challenges. We were blessed to go to super scrimmages where some of the top schools in the states were. So we went from a no-name school to being heavily respected throughout the state, actually. Mm-hmm. And we were attracting players, really good players, and due to certain circumstances that I won't touch on, a big runs were prohibited. So where we could have been up I-71, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the philosophy that I take that I took to Felicity with me. I don't care what the conception is about Felicity. I'm going to change it. Like We take our kids to the University of Rio Grande to play on a college court every year. We're taking our kids to Mason County to play in the Mason County Fieldhouse next year. We took our kids to Indiana to play in the Hoosiers gym. You know, we've got our kids new uniforms. Like, you have to give the kids the experience that they deserve in order to get the maximum potential that as a coach you deserve. Because if I'm not putting if I'm not putting all of me into you, then you're not putting all of you into me. And if we don't share that, then we're not going anywhere, you know? And so it's not always about how quick you turn the corner. It's about how productive you are when you turn the corner, because you can turn the corner very quick, but if you turn the corner real quick and you do it with just getting new players, but the product isn't good, then you're going to turn that corner, and guess what? You're coming right back where you started. But if the product is right along the way, then once you turn the corner, you're going to keep on driving down the road. You know what I'm saying? And you're not going to have to come back where you came from. And so that's what you did with Gamble. You left it better than you found it. You work as hard or harder than any coach that I know personally. You are actively involved in the Breaking the Chains AAU program. How did that come about? And, you know, how have you continued to keep high quality, high character kids in that program? And I'm not talking about high skilled kids. I'm not talking about that, because that's not important. I'm talking about high quality kids.
Well, what I say is that it was instilled in me coming up to always give back. That once you position yourself, you have to give back. My high school coach drilled us with that day in, day out. You better give back. So it was very, very important to me to give back to our youth, to give back to our different communities into this city. So Breaking the Chains was founded in 2011. This came about due to me having a situation with my former employee, Boys and Girls Clubs. And at this time, I had to identify myself, so to speak, right? So when I had my time off, I was sitting in my house thinking, what can I create? And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to create my own youth development program, and I'm going to name it Breaking the Chains. Now, Breaking the Chains stands for being your own leader, not being a follower. Breaking the curse, the family curse of not being a father. Breaking the curse of not going to jail. Breaking the curse of being afraid to be a leader, right? Breaking the Chains was my life. Mm-hmm. Not allowing my dysfunctional environment to have me succumb to negativity, to put myself in jail, to put me in a situation where I could give back. So that was Breaking the Chains. And I think with any company, organization, team, or family, Breaking the Chains started with me, how I carried myself, right? And I wanted to have families and young people around me that wanted to be more. Now, all of our kids didn't start off like high character, right? They were kids, but in coming into our program, we really put an emphasis on leadership development, relationships, conflict resolution. See, Breaking the Chains didn't start off as an athletic program. It was a program where we provided our city and our communities in them with workshops, symposiums to be better people, because I was coaching for another organization, right? And doing what that particular organization wanted to expand, and my friend said, Berto, why are we going to expand teams to our city where you can just add to Breaking the Chains, and we did that. So the athletic piece is the latter. The most important piece for me with Breaking the Chains is development of our younger people, helping them change their minds, giving them an opportunity to understand what is right from wrong. Because then in the inner city, when everybody's doing the same thing, you know, you don't know what you're doing is wrong if it's wrong, right? The people on the outside looking in may pass judgment on you, but being a kid in the projects or your respective neighborhood,
if you don't see right, how can you do right? Yeah, if you don't see right, how can you do right?
You're doing right.
Right.
You know, you
Yeah.
was doing right. You know, we introduced them kids to something else, like, you know, no judgment, but there's more to life than what you're experiencing. And I believe once you give a child an opportunity to decipher right from wrong and to define the importance of goal setting, you've done your part.
And 90% of the time, Coach, they'll choose right. You know what I mean? But you got to show them right first.
Show them first, yeah.
Just briefly, I want you to talk to me about your book, because you've done something a lot of people haven't done, and you've written a book. A lot of people don't know that. People who are close to you know that, but tell us about your book, how that came about. Just briefly, fill us in on that.
I'll be brief. So, I got some PTSD, and while I was in college, I started just jotting notes of my life and what I went through at those times. And I didn't want to be an author. I didn't want to write a book. And friends of mine that read it said, "Brother, you should make this a book." Now, during that time where I left Boys and Girls Clubs and I founded Breaking the Chains, I really dedicated myself to making it a book. The book did really well. It was at a couple universities. It was in a few middle schools. I had a lot of speaking engagements where I spoke at colleges, where I spoke at middle schools and high schools, and conducted and partnered up with different communities to have Stop the Violence marches. So the book was good for me. It was a good release. It allowed me to revisit a lot in my life and get over those things. But more importantly, in my opinion, it allowed those that experienced some of the things I did to know that they're not alone.
That they're not
There's
alone.
somebody else out there like you.
Yep. I get it. It makes sense. That's absolutely 100% real, because for people that struggle with disorders and that struggle from rough backgrounds and that struggle with disease, and the one thing that brings them comfort, no matter how bad the day is to know that there's someone else that's going through what they're going through. And the best thing to be able to do is lean on those people, lean on that person or lean on those people. So this is the part of the conversation I've been waiting on. The new head coach at Withrow University, Coach Bardo Allen. How does that sound to you?
Man, it sounds good, man. It's amazing to have an opportunity to be the head coach at the Mecca, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Withrow is the Mecca of Cincinnati basketball.
Yep. You are set to take over a program that has history, prestige, tradition, a ton of D1 athletes in all kinds of different sports. How excited are you about your new opportunity?
Brother, I'm extremely excited, and a lot of folks may be surprised with my Withrow ties. I was raised in a Withrow household, right? My uncle played at Withrow for the legendary Coach Jackson. Some of my closest friends are Withrow alum and played for Withrow. My ex-wife is a Withrow alum, and I've done so much with Withrow, and I know their history. I understand their tradition. My uncle and I are more like brothers because we're really close in age. It's only a 12-year gap.
Gotcha.
I respect him as my uncle, but we're more like brothers. And I pretty much live with my grandmother, and just watching how he carried himself, the pride that he had in being a Withrow Tiger. I used to carry his Withrow gym bag. I used to try on his Carnegie sweater, his Withrow sweater. And he and I would talk about his experiences as a basketball player, as a student athlete at Withrow. So that tradition was always in me. I tell you this, I almost went to Withrow after Cape closed because my good friend at that time and teammate, Chris Wooten, played with me at Cape. Chris went on to play at Withrow, but I almost followed him there, man. So I have a lot of Withrow tradition and understanding in me. And to have this opportunity, man, it's out of this world. But at the same time, I'm not so high on excitement that I'm not focused on what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Because we have so much work to do at Withrow. And with this coronavirus, it's even more challenging because it's setting me back. So
big time.
Now, so now we're coming into a situation where a team was not so successful. They were 4-19 this past year, lost 9 seniors, have not been able to meet the players personally.
Right.
Won't be able to get in the gym and work out, won't be able to do leadership development, hang out, and, I want things that are important to me, relationship building, won't be able to do it.
You really, at this point, one of the biggest things is, like, even though I haven't given my kids, so we missed the spring open gym session, but most of my kids play baseball, so they're probably playing more basketball in their driveways right now than they would have been playing if they were in baseball season, if that makes any sense. So, I don't really see a lot of my kids during baseball season. I've only got 5 or 6 kids that don't play baseball. But when the time comes, when they say that there's not going to be any summer basketball, and I start sending my kids workouts, and, I run a sports complex, so I'm going to have times that they all need to be at the complex to work out with me, and I'll meet the ones who don't drive in Felicity, and whatever the situation is, I know those kids to get back and touch base with them. You haven't even got a chance to touch those kids yet. And so you're really behind right now. So, what are your primary goals entering a new job, jumping up from a D4 to you went from D4 at Gamble, then I guess through competitive balance, they had you in D3 this year. You ran into a buzzsaw CHCA team, and I'm just going to tell you, listen, my dog, I was at that game. They were going to beat anybody in the state that day. They hit 12 or 13 threes in the first half. That was incredible. I was sitting on the front row, and I'm like, gosh, they ain't even got a chance to compete because, CHCA is so hot. So, you go from D4 to D3, and now Withrow D1 or D2?
Withrow's D1.
So Withrow is D1. So you have made the jump, and this is all coming from a guy that told us 15 minutes ago he had no aspirations in being a head coach. What are your goals? What are your goals as you enter this opportunity?
Well, number one, it goes back to my core. I want to establish positive and influential relationships with these kids, man. I want to see these young men grow. So programmatically, I want to see our middle school boys go to young teens. I want to see our teens go to young men. I want to give them an alternative to life. I want them to be in a position that when they become seniors, they're going to college. Whether they're going as a student athlete or as a regular student, that's fine with me. Again, no excuses. Even though we're behind, it's my goal to once again establish relationships, grow these guys as young men, really attack the school year academically, hit the gym like no other, and just put us in and just change the culture at the end of the day. So doing those things I just said, change the culture. We're going to put a championship culture in there. And our values for our program will be, number one, to compete hard. That's both off the floor and on the floor. That's in the classroom, that's on the track, that's in the weight room, that's on the court. Secondly, mental tough. Got to be mentally tough. There's going to be days where they don't want to go to school. There's going to be days they don't want to practice. But being a champion, the test of a champion is not how they react when things going well, but how they react when they facing adversity. Thirdly, we're gonna be grit. We're gonna be a program of grit. And lastly, we're gonna be a team of togetherness. So our core values of our program is to compete hard, be mentally tough, compete with grit, and stay together. No matter what we're going through, man, no matter what we go through, we're gonna stay together. No matter how much adversity we face, we're going to stay together. So the ultimate goal is to create a competitive environment with family values. You know what I'm saying? To where our young men can grow both on and off the floor. And I want to get Woodrow to where it belongs, respectfully.
Respect.
You know,
Back to respectability.
Respectfully, you know, I'm not a guy that talks no trash or be disrespectful to anybody, but Withrow is currently not where she needs to be, and we're gonna work our tails off as students, as coaches, as an administration, as an alumni, as a family of Piper Pride to get back to where we belong.
Mm-hmm. This is a big step in terms of stage, but not in terms of competition. Because, like you mentioned, during your time at Gamble, you always scheduled very, 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 very heavy. You probably didn't get a chance to touch this schedule this year, but, you know, idealistically, moving forward, knowing that you're at Withrow and that there is talent in the building, and I would assume that with you being in the building, some more talent may come. And I know that doesn't have anything to do with you reaching out to people, but like I said, you are a player's coach because you love on the kids and give them everything that they need and they deserve in order to give the program everything that it deserves.
Absolutely.
Cincinnati has always been, in a sense, a basketball hotbed, and Withrow has always been one of those beds that basketball players have laid in, and that still holds true. What are some of the challenges that you will face taking over the helm at the Row?
Can I touch your first point?
Yes, sir.
About the stage and stuff. Stages don't bother me. You know, I was at Hughes and we played in front of big stages. You know, in my opinion, basketball is basketball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in scheduling the teams that I scheduled, to be honest, I feel that we never got outcoached.
Mm-hmm.
We just went against teams that may have better players than we had and had more depth.
Right.
And if you looked at our schedule from this past year, you know, those scores against the bigger schools can be very misleading because at certain points we were up in those games or the games were really tight and they pulled away in the fourth quarter. I think our biggest challenge at Withrow is going to be it's just the culture and dealing with some community stuff. As a head coach, you know this, man. The on the floor stuff is easy. The teaching and the coaching and that's the easy part. The most challenging part for us coaches is the off the floor stuff. What's going on in this kid's life?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what are they going through? What is their mental state? What are they being taught? You know, so the biggest challenge for me is getting in there and learning these kids on an intimate level, what they're experiencing at home, what they're experiencing in their environment. So head coaches, we have to look to manage years and years of a certain lifestyle and curtail that and enhance that and work with that over a matter of months, right? So I don't know the Withrow seniors, you know. I don't know our juniors, you know. So it's critical that relationship building and understanding are key. This program is going to be in for a treat because it's going to be a program of high demand, high expectation coming from myself. You know, these boys are for a good treat, and I just can't wait. Schedule wise, like you said, I wasn't able to touch the schedule this year, but I put this schedule up against anybody. It's pretty tough. We're back in the CMAC this year, so we get to play against Tab twice, Aiken twice, West High twice, Woodward twice, Schroeder, and now we play against Trotwood, Thurgood, Dayton Dunbar, Stivers, Dayton Meadowdale.
So you got some Dayton schools on the schedule too.
we got some Dayton schools on the schedule. I think that's because our athletic director is from Dayton, and he has those times up there, and he scheduled those Dayton schools. Now, our schedule is done for the next 2 years. However, I'm pretty sure that our AD in year 2 will be open to us having a conversation of doing something differently. There's no way that Gamble Montessori can be in the flying to the hoop and Withrow can't.
Withrow can't. Yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
You know what I'm saying? There's no reason that Gamble is getting invited to tournaments in Florida and Withrow isn't there. You know what I mean? And I'm not taking anything from Gamble. We busted our behinds at Gamble. Worked really hard at Gamble to put ourselves in position for those things and build up good relationships. But this is a Withrow that we're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it'd be a good thing that Withrow is in national events. And, but that's down the line, and we got to just put the work in, man, in the classroom, on the track, in the weight room, and on the floor.
Absolutely. You've been in you believe in your kids as much as any coach that I know. Is that belief earned or is it given? And do you and do you, in the eyes of your team, do you have to show them that you are willing to go the extra mile to get them to trust you, or is it something that just if you believe in them, they believe in you, it's an even exchange? How does that typically work for you?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? So I'll say this: playing for me isn't easy initially, because I'm very demanding. My kids have to say yes sir, no sir. Our shirts should be tucked in during practice. I'm big on discipline. I'm big on the kids getting to class on time, and that's an adjustment for some kids, right? And how I carry myself, how I dress, how I groom myself, all those things come into play. And more importantly, I speak real to the kid. We're in a generation where, you have to give a kid respect to give it back. So I'm very respectful yet demanding with our kids. I don't disrespect them, therefore they respect me back. And then they see how hard I work. They see that I'm a man of my word. They see I practice what I preach, right? And that makes it easy to follow. That makes it easy to follow me. You know what I'm saying? So,
right. And then when
I've been blessed. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You've been blessed.
Yeah, I've been blessed that kids go through the wall for me because I go through the wall for them.
Right. Yeah. And then when
kids at Withrow gonna see my grind.
When you and then when you go TikTok viral on them and you up, down, slide, up, down, come here, give me a 5, man. I love my guys. Then they know. Then they know it's real. You know what I'm saying?
They know it's real, man. I'm a real coach, man. I'm a real coach, man. And as a coach, you got to be able to modify your approach. You got to change with the times without losing yourself, right? I'm big on respect, hard work, dedication, and commitment. The kids at Gamble brought something to my attention a couple of years ago. They say, "Coach, you never smile." And I'm a guy that loves to smile, but I was so into building our program at Gamble. I was so focused on being the best program that we can be that
you lost track of having fun.
I wasn't trying to have no fun.
Right.
I'm not trying to have no fun at Withrow. You know what I'm saying?
I've been there. I'm there now. You know what I'm saying? I'm there now. Like when I always tell our kids, like sometimes they'll be like, "Coach, you look too serious," or "Coach, what?" I'll tell them, are you having fun? And they'll say, "Yeah, we're having some fun." I say, "Well, what's fun to me? Winning is fun to me. Developing leaders. When I feel that everyone," and so first, my process is always this. First, I want everyone in my locker room to be the employer and not the employee. So whatever it is that you do, I want you to be the boss, right? And then after you're the boss, then you start to win. So when everybody in this locker room feels like a boss, like I feel, then we'll start to win. Then when that happens, then you'll see me smiling all the time because I love that, because winning is fun. And so people get so distraught or upset with me because they say the only thing that matters to him is winning. That's all he cares about. But winning is contagious. Losing is also contagious. So when you have become so inept to losing, or when losing is okay to you, or when the first thing that happens when you lose is, where am I going to go eat at, or whatever the situation is,
time to go.
You're light years of winning. Like I'm walking back to my office one night, and my uncle, me and my cousin Brandon helps me, and we're walking back to the office one night, and we lost, and I'm like in the locker room, and I have vowed that I'm not going to yell. Like, I'm not going to come in here. I'm not going to yell. They're not losing on purpose. I'm going to tell them what we did. I'm going to tell them what we need to work on, and I'm going to tell them I'll see them tomorrow at 8 a.m. or whatever. So I'm walking back to the office, and I hear somebody, one of the players, ask another one of the players, like, where you guys want to go eat at? And when we get in my office, I just sit down on my couch, and I tell my assistants, I say, hey, we're so far away from winning. We lost by 4 tonight, but we're really far away from winning. And they're like, we got beat 58-54. I'm like, yeah, but we got 58-54, and they're worried about food. Like,
about food.
Like, we're not, and so that was the first year. Now that conversation doesn't take place in our locker room. So that's how I know we're moving in the right direction, because winning is fun. Being successful is fun. Developing yourself is fun. Knowing that you're seeing changes in yourself and you're maturating is fun. And sometimes I tell, Kelly Benintendi was on the show. She played at Michigan and played at Xavier. She scored 2,366 points in high school with no three-point line. And she was on the show the other night, and I had Micah Harvey on the show last week that played at UC, and both of them said the same sentiment. When I became great at basketball and when I became great at everything that I did in life was the day that I realized that it mattered how he was saying it. And when you get kids to understand that it's about what you say, not how you say it, then you're going in the right direction. And I think that that's something you've been good at, is getting your kids to pay attention to what you say, not how you say it.
Facts. And that's something that we preach, man, because what I've heard a lot over the years is, how do your kids, how do you talk to them like that? Well, do you know what I'm saying to my kids? Number one. Number two, they know I care about them. I don't disrespect them. If me telling them to get a down rebound is wrong, I don't want to be right. If me telling my kids, good job, or being hyped with them is wrong, I don't want to be right. But when I hope that the kids that with are sore losers. I'm a sore loser.
Yeah, me too.
To lose.
I'm bad at it.
I hate it.
That's the one thing. That's the one thing that I'm really, really bad at, that I've never improved at, and I'm glad I've never improved at it, is losing. Let's talk about Mr. Ozzie Davis for a minute. How much of an impact has he had on your coaching career as far as support?
Man, Ozzie is my brother. So growing up in Cincinnati, everybody knew who Ozzie was. I heard about him. Our relationship really took off a couple of years ago when he reached out to me on Facebook, and he shared with me how impressed he was with how we ran DTC. So much so that we combined. So in my mind, I'm like, what? Ozzie Davis, Queen City Prophet legend, one of the godfathers of the game, wants to collaborate with me?
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was like, what? And he told me, he just watched how I conducted myself at BTC. Literally playing in Vegas, Atlanta, Tennessee, Chicago, Carolina, just doing it the right way, and our program offering workshops and symposiums, and on the road trips when we combined, man, we would talk about life. Transparently. and with no front and no lying, no ego. We came into each other's lives at a real good time, man. And him seeing how I get down in the gym and how I coach, he loved it, man. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, for him to give me praise, with him having as much experience as he has in this basketball game, let me know that I was doing something right. Right. I believe I can coach basketball, Coach. But when you hear from a legend and a man that has as many resources as he has, that only boosted my confidence. And since that time 2 years ago, and us really developing a brotherhood, actually, we like brothers. We've gotten so close, and he's been one hell of a supporter of me. In fact, he wrote a letter on my behalf to the Whippo committee.
Right.
With me getting this job, man, and anything that I do, Ozzy has been a part of it, and I've reciprocated that. But Ozzy, my guy, man, he loves the kids, and I see it. Again, it's one thing for a person to talk it, but that man walk the walk, man. I've seen this dude, buy kids shoes, look out for this in the inner city. You know what I mean? And the many stories that we've shared and what he shared with me. That dude, Ozzy the truth, man. He ain't perfect, he ain't no saint, but that's what makes him so incredible. That he can be vulnerable and be real.
I talked to Miss Wallace. I said, man, when Ozzy walks in the building, when Ozzy walked in Rockdale, when the kids see him, it's like Santa Claus has entered the building. And sometimes... And one time I said to somebody who was working there, I don't know if it was Mr. Donnie. Mr. Donnie now has the Good Company, and so he's no longer at Rockdale. But I don't know if it was Mr. Donnie or who it was. But I was like, man, Ozzy just walked in. I was like, it looked like them kids is acting like it's Christmas, and he ain't even got nothing in his hands. And Mr. Donnie said, nah, he do got something in his hands. He do got something in his arm. I said, his arms ain't even full. And Mr. Donnie said he do have something in his arms. His arms is full of love. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, that's what them kids want. That's what he's giving them. And so that spoke volumes to me, with me being not from downtown or not from down the way or from the city, but understanding, how important people like him are in the youth of today's community. You have truly worked your way from the bottom to the top with no desire to be a head coach. Now you are a head coach at one of the most prestigious high schools in the city of Cincinnati. If I know you like I think I know you, you are going to not get satisfied. You are going to look for reasons to get more bona fide. Something about you, I thought about you the other night when I was watching, because they were talking about Michael Jordan creating his own narrative. Nobody ever said that Clyde Drexler was as good as Michael Jordan, but he said that they said that he was, and that was his narrative for that series. He drew his own narrative. He went to the casino. They said he was there till 3 a.m. He was only there till midnight. So what's he do? He gets pissed off and he wins 4 games in a row. He had created a narrative that people were saying he was a bad guy because he went gambling with his dad. I know another person that creates their own narrative, and that's Berto Allen. You're as good at it as anybody. You're as good at walking in the locker room and telling your kids that 1 million people said that they couldn't do something when nobody said they couldn't do it as anybody. What is going to be your narrative at Withrow?
That's an awesome question, man. My narrative is, we gonna do it our way. I'm being doubted right now. It's so funny how much talk is already going on, right? And I told you I was gonna speak freely, so I'm gonna be very, very respectful. Okay? It just amazes me how ununified we are as coaches and as people.
Yeah.
I'm a man that loves gas to add to my fire. I'm already self-motivated. I'm already a competitor. And I take every little thing that I hear. and I bottle it up inside of me, and I hold it inside of me, and it comes out in practice, on the track, in the weight room, in the classroom, in our family discussions. The narrative at Withrow is that we're going to be a team. We're going to be a family that looks to win the day in, day out. And winning the day is being the best student that you can be. Getting to class on time. Being a positive teammate. Encouraging your teammate. Growing and developing as a young man. Practicing your behind off. Competing your behind off. Being coachable. Our narrative is we're going to be a hard-working team that stays together, that doesn't listen to the outside noise, that plays team ball. I'm going to be a coach that doesn't listen to that listens but doesn't absorb the negative. I'm going to absorb the positive and the negative. I'm going to take everything that people say about me, and we're going to draw this beautiful picture. So our narrative is going to be, we're going to do what we do, when we do it, how we've been taught to do it.
Well,
class, respect, and dignity.
There's one thing about it, Coach, and I tell people this all the time, especially little kids, because they're the ones who it is most prevalent to, because they're the most easily to influence. And I see little kids, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and they have a passion. They love basketball. They love baseball. They love football. And what I tell them is,